What's up guys, it's Chili here, and apparently I'm already late to the party. I woke up and saw that my Discord was blowing up. People were posting images. I was like, what is this? Well, it turns out today we have the Immortal Pillars teaser trailer. This is the Chinese civilization coming into Age of Mythology Retold. Holy shit, I can't believe we're already getting a trailer. The game's barely out for like a month. Alright, no more yapping, let's just get into it. So, already we are seeing Ho-Ho, the Pokemon. No, I'm just kidding. This is probably the Fenghuang, or alternatively, it could be the Vermilion Bird. Two different birds in Chinese mythology, both look like giant phoenixes. It's the phoenix that you see portrayed as the dragon in the Chinese restaurants. It's the inspiration for Ho-Ho, and it was also featured in the extended editions version of China. Now, the audio that they just played right there, I believe actually comes from the Egyptian Titan Ra. I'm guessing that they put that here as a placeholder. They just didn't finish the audio for the Chinese civilization yet. Oh my god, there is so much going on. What in the world? So we see here, this is kind of like a scholar character, like a sage. He's got the hairbrush. This is something you commonly see with like magister type characters or like strategists. I'm guessing this is like a Taoist sage type of character, not quite a monk. It could be an alternative hero, but I don't see the glow. Over in the center here, this is like some kind of water dragon or something like that. It's got this little antenna that kind of reminds me of those deep sea creatures. I'm not sure what this is. Maybe it's like the inspiration for Gyarados or something. So looking at the rest of this though, looking at this palace, there's bubbles coming up, there's kelp coming up, and there's this giant pillar in the center here. This is probably the Jingu Bang. This is the rod of Sun Wukong. Originally, it was a giant pillar that held up the ocean, and Ao Kuang, the dragon of the Eastern Sea, in his palace, featured in Shioji, the Journey to the West as well. Wukong comes down, bullies him, and then basically takes this giant pillar and uses it as a weapon. Over on the left here, I'm seeing some more sages. It looks like we also have like a female sage character. This one has this kind of floating sash robe thing, which is a very common motif that you see in Chinese mythology. Super cool to see here. She also might be even flying. This character over here looks to be another old man sage type of character who's actually riding what looks to be, to me, a qilin. This is a very commonly seen mythological character. It's kind of like the Chinese version of the unicorn. It's a little bit of a dragon mixed with a deer. You saw it in Shang-Chi, and I also featured it as one of the mythological units for my Chinese civ concept. Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm going to be comparing everything to my version of how I designed China. I did do a 2-hour breakdown over here, but there's also a graphic that I'll include in the description below that you can just check out. I have a lot of opinions on how to design China, so it's really cool to compare and contrast with how the devs actually did it. I also want to point out that back here there is a temple. It looks like this is the statue to one of the major gods. If I had to guess though, this doesn't quite look like any of the gods that we saw in the extended edition, where we had Shen Nong and Fuxi and Nuwa. This character looks a little bit more human, a little bit more Taoist. Almost resembles like Lao Tzu or something like that, the founder of Taoism. The last thing I want to call it here is, what is the point of this building? I wonder if this could be a wonder for the Chinese civilization, or it doesn't quite look big enough. Maybe it is a campaign asset. Maybe in the campaign we're going to go into Ao Kuang's palace. That's my guess right now, but it's a bit weird to see Ao Kuang's palace portrayed in the middle of a forest rather than underwater. If it was in the campaign, I would expect it to be underwater. So this might be a building that we actually see in game, in which case that would be really interesting. Does this civ have mythological buildings on top of myth units? Oh my god, there's so much going on here. Okay, so up front here we have infantry, heavy shield carrying warriors. If you look at the armor style, you can see the little flares on the sides of their helmets. This is a very Song Dynasty helmet design. I can't quite tell if they're wearing mountain pattern armor or just kind of a generic scale mail. Back here though, oh my god, we need to back this up a little bit. So we have these white tigers. We saw this previously in the extended edition. White tiger was an age 4 myth unit for China. It had kind of like an Anubis leap ability, which was a little bit boring. The white tiger is one of the 4 sacred animals in Chinese mythology, by the way. There are 4 cardinal directions: the white tiger, the black tortoise, the vermilion bird, and the azure dragon. So the fact that we're already seeing 3 of these myth units included suggests that we're going to be seeing an azure dragon pretty soon. Now, the other myth unit over here, if I had to guess, this looks a little bit like a pishu, or in Chinese known as a pishu. I say that because they're commonly depicted as a tiger with wings, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. The wings do suggest that it's going to be able to fly. So I wonder if this is kind of like the Egyptian rock, where you can kind of transition from a flying state or a ground state. They're about the same size as the white tiger though, and it looks like they even share the same animation. So that's a little bit disappointing. This seems like there's a little bit of overlap here. I wonder if these two are associated. Maybe you get them from the same god or something like that. And I'm also a little bit surprised at how big they are. In the extended edition, they were relatively small and cute. In this game, they're as big as the white tiger. And if that's an age 4 myth unit, because it certainly looks badass enough to be one, it's gigantic, then I wonder what the identity of the Pishu is going to be. Okay, and we also have this cavalry here. I can't quite tell what weapon they're holding. It almost looks like a sickle or something like that. We see this giant castle thing in the background again. In my design for the Chinese civilization, I called their version of the fortress as the Imperial Bastion, mainly because a word like castle is very generic and could be used for a future civilization, whereas Imperial Bastion just kind of fits well with China. We're also seeing over here a couple of interesting units. This guy looks like a general character of some sort. He's got these dragon shoulder pauldrons, very heavily armored as you can see, and then the other guy over here is holding some kind of staff. This might be another kind of hero character, but based on their heads, they have a very generic looking head, so I'm not sure if this is a unit or a hero character. They're not glowing either the way Age of Mythology heroes do, so I'm not too sure. And there's one other unit back here just to nerd out completely. This almost looks like a light spearman or javelin type of character. The helmet that he's wearing is a Han Dynasty era helmet styling, as well as the shield here. You can see the shape of this shield. This is also very Han Dynasty era shield design. I'm curious what this unit is. Okay, here we go. So we have this hero character again. I'm starting to think this might be like a Chinese campaign Arcantos character, because he's very generic looking, very fantasy inspired with these giant dragon shoulder pauldrons, and his face is not really giving me anything. He could be literally any Chinese character from mythology. In general, I like the design of his armor. It's got that very fantasy Song Dynasty / Ming Dynasty-esque armor. I mentioned in my concept for the Chinese civilization that they should absolutely go with this later era kind of armor design because that's what's known in pop mythology. I know a lot of people were looking for like a Han Dynasty look or maybe a Qin Dynasty look, a much more ancient kind of styling, which fits better with like the Greeks and the Egyptians. But as I'm always saying, Age of Mythology is not about historical accuracy. It's about getting the pop mythology right. What do people think of when they think of Chinese mythology? What do people think of when they think of Greek mythology? Well, you think of Corinthian helmets and hoplites. And in Chinese mythology, you think of this kind of Black Myth Wukong style armor, this Song Dynasty kind of mountain pattern armor. And I love the way they rendered it here. It's beautiful. For myth units in the back, we have the Feng Huang / most likely the Vermilion Bird up in the top, looking exactly like the rotisserie chicken of my dreams. We have the Pichu up here once again, which actually has a horn growing out of its head, which is pretty interesting. This is a very badass, gigantic looking unit. This is an extremely interesting myth unit that we haven't seen before. It's got kind of like this ape-like face with giant horns growing out of it. It's walking on all fours and is very hairy. To be honest with you, I don't really recognize this creature. If I had to stick a guess, this might be Retold's interpretation of the Taotia. Taotia is this kind of mythological beast that you see as like the stone guardians for a lot of temples. They were the dog-like creatures that attacked the Great Wall in that Matt Damon movie. I only say this because it's walking on all fours. The monkey style face definitely does not evoke Taotia, so I'm a little bit confused as to where they're going with this kind of creature. Back here, we see the Chinese cataphract. So in Age of Mythology Extended Edition, the Chinese did have a heavy cavalry unit known as the cataphract, which was very, very OP. And it looks like we're getting that unit back again. This helmet styling definitely looks a little bit more older period. So Han Dynasty-esque. This weapon that they're holding, I can't quite get a good picture of it. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. There's too much going on. Oh my God, I'm getting so much spoiled right now. It looks like they also have a light cavalry style unit over here. These two feathers at the top here, this is a very Han Dynasty, Three Kingdoms period design. And I really can't tell what this weapon is. I want to say they're holding like guandaos or something like that, or at least the cataphract unit is holding a guandao. I really don't know what that weapon is. It's like a metal staff or mace or something like that. And then, of course, there's this giant thing in the back here. This thing right here, I can't believe what I'm seeing. This is Xing Tian, the headless hero from Chinese mythology. I actually had this character portrayed as a hero in my concept. The mythology behind him goes, he was trying to come at the emperor in heaven, and he got his head lopped off, but he was so pursuant in his mission that he grew eyes out of his nipples and his belly button became a mouth, and he just kept on going at it. He's known for his giant axe, and in this case, it looks like his head got replaced by hair. He's so big here. I wonder if he is the Chinese Titan. That is a really interesting direction to go in. I would not have expected that. Oh my God. Oh my God. This trailer moves so fast. Holy crap. It's like they're teasing me. So here we've got some interesting weapons. Over on the right hand side here, this is the double ballista. This is something that we see depicted in a lot of siege manuals for China. It's actually imported down into Southeast Asia, and you see it depicted in a lot of Vietnamese and Cambodian art as well. This giant axe thing over here, I have no idea what this is. It's probably this unit right here, the Hungry Falcon Cart or the hook cart. It seems like it was used to basically pull walls down by using a giant hook. I think the most interesting thing here is that they're not going with gunpowder weapons. In my version of the Chinese civilization, I showed the nest of bees as well as the fire lance, and I expected some gunpowder representation for China. It doesn't seem like that's quite what they're going with here, and I think that's a pretty interesting direction. I know a lot of people were unhappy about going in the gunpowder direction. They want to keep things more kind of classical and ancient, so I totally get that vibe. Over here we have some kind of archer unit. They do have a shield on their arms, and they have this interesting skull cap that they're wearing here. Over here we have this kind of stilted house. I wonder if this is going to be another kind of unique building, because we haven't seen any stilted houses in the game yet, and even if you build a building next to the water. I don't know if it comes up with stilts or anything like that. All right, taking a look at this shot over here, we've got all these Chinese junks in the distance. It looks like this is a Mengchong. It's kind of a covered ship from the Three Kingdoms era. This is the kind of thing that you might see in the famous Battle of Chibi. Over here, we have some kind of snake or something arising out of the water. I'm really curious what this is. We're also seeing a bunch of these buildings, which look like lighthouse pagodas or something like that. Like a little bit of a mix between a lighthouse and a pagoda. I'm not really sure what that is. And then right here, this looks like some kind of demonic tower. I mentioned earlier that there could be kind of like mythological buildings with this civilization, so this might be one of those mythological buildings, if I had to guess. This ship right here is clearly the siege version of the Chinese Navy. This is absolutely the Lotron, or the tower ship. You can tell by the giant tower sitting on it, and there's also what looks like a giant double ballista right here at the front. So exactly the same kind of weapon that we saw earlier, just sitting on a ship now. I actually put this exact same design in my concept for the Chinese as well. It just seems like a natural fit, so I'm glad that we're seeing it here as well. Quick call out on the cavalry here. That, my friends, is a bow that these units are holding, which actually makes me realize these units are not Drugunu. China is almost always portrayed as having Drugunu type archers in all of the Age games. I'm a little bit shocked that they didn't go with the Drugunu. But yeah, it's also awesome that we're having these horse archers. I also included horse archers in my version of the Chinese design. I think it makes a lot of sense. We're probably unlikely to get like a Tengri or Mongolian style faction anytime in the near future, so having some horse archer representation in the game is awesome. This character at the front here obviously also has a quiver, so it suggests that he's also a horse archer type of unit. I'm guessing he's a hero, maybe a campaign hero or something like that. This dude has kind of like a dented head. Oh, they have the hats. This was the kind of thing that you'd see like peasants wear to cover up their top knots back in like the Han Dynasty. Let's keep moving on with the video. Oh, what is that? There's like some titans fighting over there. Wait. That's two different creatures, right? One of them looks like a minotaur-like creature, and the other, there's only so many pixels I'm getting here. This fish thing with the antenna growing out of it, it's looking a lot less like a dragon here, and a lot more like a giant fish. If I had to guess, it might be the Kun. In my design for the Chinese, I included a Kun myth unit, which is often portrayed as a giant fish or a whale. Sorry for the pausing, but we got to stop it one more time. Over here, we see that ape-like creature again, but this time from above. I was guessing it's kind of like a Taotia type of character potentially. And it looks like we also get this kind of like, there's like a fire tail on the back of this myth unit right here. This could be another version of the Qilin maybe. If I had to guess with this black goat creature, it could be a Xie, which is commonly portrayed as like a goat-like character. Oh, okay, so here we go. Once again, we see this kind of like minotaur type of character. If I had to guess, then this is probably the Bull Demon King from Sun Wukong. He's kind of like the big bad in the Journey to the West story. He's got all these different weapons, all these different arms, super cool looking. Chili from the future here, it seems like consensus from the community is that this is actually Qiyo, the great demon king in the foundation of Chinese mythology. Makes a ton of sense. He's got all those arms. I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner. Up front, we have the Xingtian character again, the guy that lost his head. We saw in that previous shot that they were battling it out. I'm a little bit surprised that China seems to have two Titan characters. I don't know what that all means. And also in the mythology, these two characters are not really associated with one another. Now I'm realizing what that snake thing that we saw earlier was. This is the black tortoise, which is a giant black tortoise with oftentimes depicted with a snake on top of it. It seems like they're definitely going for an amphibian type of unit here, because we saw this in the water earlier. Oh, really cool. This style with the alien-looking heads comes from the Shang Dynasty era. Archaeologists basically found a bunch of these kinds of interesting alien head statues, and it just looks so otherworldly. Oh, love this. So this little kind of fancy mountain range here with the Pandora style floating rocks, this is evocative to me of the Kunlun Mountains, kind of like the Mount Olympus for Chinese mythology. Okay, interesting. So up front here, we see soldiers with these helmets here. This is very Han Dynasty / Three Kingdoms era design. Here we see a guy with what looks to be like a halberd, some badass looking armor, and two pheasant feathers on his head. This looks like a Lu Bu type of character. For folks that don't know, he's basically like the big badass warrior in the Three Kingdoms story. He's one of the faces for Dynasty warriors, and he's also a huge meme now.
It's Lu Bu!
Here we see this Chinese light cavalry once again. They're holding some kind of lance, but you can see that the horses are not barded. This is not the cataphract cavalry. Here we see more versions of this kind of light infantry here that we see with this short spear. And we see those siege weapons in the back here. Along with this looks like an ox, like a giant wooden ox. This is the kind of thing that you see, didn't Zeus or like Daedalus made a mechanical ox or something like that? I don't know. This building right here looks to be the Chinese version of the barracks. And then right here, we see a feminine character with a snake tail. So this all but confirms that Nuwa is one of the major gods for China. And I love that they're going with those ethereal robes once again. Absolute 10 out of 10 motif here. In the back here, we see what looks like Nuwa's wonder. It's got this kind of step pyramid architecture style. The only kind of famous step pyramid I can think of is the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huangdi, the first Chinese emperor. He's the guy with the terracotta statues. Oh, Jesus. Okay, there's more. Yeah, this looks kind of like that rock pillar that we saw earlier. I wonder if this thing right here is at the top of that structure back there. So it's not a step pyramid, but actually a giant blue radioactive pillar. Oh my god, so much stuff here. Okay, we get our first look at the Chinese villager right here. So this is the female villager. This looks like the male villager. Once again, we see these giant shield soldiers. These little florals on the side are definitely Tang Dynasty era designs. Shout out to Jack Huang and Dragon's Armory for making these art pieces, by the way. Right here, you see this kind of, this looks like a Three Kingdoms era heavy infantry type of soldier. I think we saw this unit, he's got the javelins behind his back. We saw this unit before, but this is clearly the heavier armored version of that. Oh, and back here, we finally have the G. In the extended edition, the Chinese had access to the halberdier, and I always felt that was a little bit weird because the Chinese do not quite have halberds. They have their own distinct thing, and that is the G. It's kind of like a dagger axe with a spear at the tip. For most of Chinese history, this is your bog standard peasant infantry, and it's really cool to finally see it represented here. It looks like it's carrying like a shield on its back or something like that. There's clearly something else going on behind it. Based on the armor style here, this is very Qin Dynasty era style armor. This kind of armored apron that he's got. Once again, we see the wooden ox again, and this looks like the bull demon king. Whoa, hey, we got the Druganu. So we do have Druganu in this game. Okay, wait, how many units does China have? They have these special looking archers, they have the horse archers, they have the G infantry, and they also have Druganu. There's so many units in this faction. So normally every single civ in Age of Mythology has maybe 6 to 7-ish human units and a couple of siege weapons on top of that. China, we're already seeing it has 3 siege weapons. It's got the ballista, it's got that crane, and it's also got the wooden ox. And now we're seeing so many different kinds of infantry and cavalry for this civilization. I'm a bit surprised. I wonder if China's gonna do something like the Greeks, where every single major god also has their own unique unit specifically dedicated to them. And yeah, with this, I'm also a little bit surprised. So this is the myth unit that we saw earlier that was giant, the bull demon king. You can clearly see this kind of like bullhead minotaur styling going on here. Really cool looking. Not quite sure why he's in like little unit form. So I guess this was just a myth unit the whole time. It's not actually the Titan for the Chinese. Okay, stopping it once again. Here we see a little hut or a yurt almost. I'm guessing this is just like a tent asset from the campaign. Probably not something that you'll see in game. Here we see those black goats, the Xiezhi once again. Here we also get a better picture of the this like deer looking character with the fire tail. Almost looks like Ponita, which makes me think that this might be the version of the Qinlin in the game. Back here we see this kind of nomadic looking barbarian character, and the fact that we can see it repeated multiple times suggests that this is also a myth unit, kind of like a giant, like a Chinese giant. I'm trying to see if I can spot anything else. The giants look like they're throwing something. So right here we see another yellow-haired, smaller kind of myth unit. I'm not sure what that is though, but it seems to be holding a sword in its mouth. It reminds me of like Sif from Dark Souls, that wolf with the giant sword in its mouth. It's cute, but I can't think of what that would be depicting. Okay, and here we see the 2 giants going at it again. Up front and center, we see this kind of what I thought was a Lubu character, but now I'm seeing that he has the tri-tip spear. So this looks like Yang Jian then, or Erlang Shen. So this is probably actually like a god hero. And then here, this other general character, I'm not sure who this is. Clearly wearing a lot of armor. This might be just like the bad guy in the Chinese campaign. I don't know if this is actually a character I can think of. And based on this giant ability that this that Xingtian's doing, he is doing the kind of Titan smash thing. Everyone seems to be affected by it. And here we also get a better look at the Chinese version of the cataphract. I'm trying to tell what kind of weapon he's holding here. I can't quite tell still. And here I'm realizing now that this guy has a bow on his back, and he's also wielding a spear. So it looks like China will have cavalry that can switch between horse archers and spear cavalry. And I love the white horses. This could be the white horse cavalry, the famous unit of Gongsun Zan from the Three Kingdoms period. If you've seen Zhao Yun, the poster boy for Dynasty Warriors, he was one of the white horse riders before he joined Liu Bei's forces. Cool. And in this shot, we see a bunch more of those black tortoises. You can see kind of the head over here looks really badass. I like the little snake coming out of its back. It looks like a dragon almost. We are seeing a third type of ship, I think. So this ship is the melee ship, I'm guessing. So I'm guessing this is just like a junk or like a war junk. And then up here, you can see the covered ships once again. This is probably the actual Mengchong type of ship. It seems like it has like a hammer at the front here that it uses to hit in melee range. I don't think there was a hammer ship in actual Chinese history, at least nothing that I can think of. It could just be something that's kind of made up for the game. Oh, okay. We're gonna slow down. Oh, wow, what is that? Okay, we need to take this nice and slow. Okay, so now we're seeing that this pagoda thing here that looked like a lighthouse is probably not a unique building, but rather just the model for the dock. Also here we have the stilts here, so it's actually just the Chinese dock. Maybe the Chinese have a unique dock, but most likely this is just an aesthetic direction to take the dock just to make it look a little bit more unique. Up front here, we see the sage character once again, probably a hero type of unit. He's riding the Qilin, or at least what I thought was a Qilin, but maybe it's a different kind of animal because we saw a different kind of Qilin type of myth unit earlier, so I'm not really sure what that is. Here is the Chinese version of the tower. Looks pretty good, probably a generic tower. And then back here, we can see the two giants fighting off once again. I thought they were Titans. They might still be Titans. Maybe one of them is campaign asset. I'm not sure. But right here, front and center, we see this giant dragon. And that is a very interesting depiction of a Chinese dragon. So Chinese dragons are not typically depicted with wings, but you can clearly tell that this guy has wings. It could be Shenlong, which is the god dragon and the dragon of lightning. There is kind of like a thunderstorm going on right now, so I wonder if that's evoking this character, or if he's associated. Maybe this is like a god power or something like that. I love that we're seeing like a proper flying dragon in the Chinese civilization. We didn't have that in the extended edition. Instead, we just had the Azure dragon and the Earth dragon, which just look kind of lame. There's a lot of heroes going on in this fight. I'm guessing this is a campaign fight. Oh my god, everything happens so fast. I'm gonna take this frame by frame. Oh my god, what is that? Okay, at first I thought this was a bug because there's just a bunch of rings overlapping, but then I was like, wait, rings? And then you see this boy right here with the fire. Whoa, they got Nudra in the game. Let's go. Wait. If they have Nudra in the game, then surely they're gonna have Wukong in the game, right? Like we haven't seen Wukong yet this entire time. Okay, so Nudra, he's kind of an androgynous looking boy character, one of the most popular famous heroes in Chinese mythology. Every Chinese kid grew up learning about him. He fought Wukong almost to a draw. They're basically on the same power level, if you can imagine that. It looks like right here he's actually throwing rings at the bull monster, and I think in the story they actually fought. So this is like a lore accurate fight right here. It's weird that Xingtian over here had to die to make this fight happen. I'm also noticing that this sage character that's riding this Qilin is holding a rod. This almost looks like a sword breaker type of rod, a very unique kind of Chinese weapon. It seems like there's another example of it over here as well. The fact that you can produce it multiple times suggests to me that this is actually a myth unit. I'm not sure exactly which direction they're going in. If I had to guess now, maybe this is a Taoist immortal, like an immortal character. I know in the extended edition, the immortals were basically the Chinese version of the hero unit, and maybe that's the direction that they're going in here. Just based on the visual motifs here, it looks like a Taoist immortal. I also want to point out this character right here. This is some kind of armored hero unit that's an archer. It could be that this is Hou. Hou is the famous husband of Chang, the goddess of the moon. He famously shot down the 9 suns and stopped global warming. I had him featured as a hero in my version of the civilization, and if I had to guess, either this is a standard unit or potentially a Hou style hero unit. Here we're seeing the bull kind of smash down, everything's going crazy. Here we have this kind of very clearly evil coded character in the front here once again. Okay, look at all the characters like kind of going flying. Hero units technically don't get affected by the knockup, so if there are units flying, oh my god. Okay, here we get this like nice close up of Hou. Okay, and here we see, is that meteors? There's giant meteors? I'm guessing these are Egyptian meteors. I don't think this is a Chinese god power. Or maybe it is. Actually, it looks a little bit different. I can't tell. We have this giant pillar once again, showing very old style script. Immortal Pillars. Oh, okay, maybe that big thing is the Immortal Pillar. Wow, this video was only a minute long, and I talked about it for damn near over an hour now. There is so much exciting stuff happening in this video. I am hyped beyond belief for Retold's version of China. I do see a lot of elements that are very similar to what I was hoping to see in the Chinese design. So already it's going in a very, very cool direction. The fact that they included Nudra in the game got me hyped beyond belief. The fact that we see Erlang Shen or Yang Jian in the game is also extremely awesome. It really opens up the question though, where is Wukong? Everyone knows Wukong. I think they're saving it. There's no way that they're depicting all these other Chinese characters and not showing Sun Wukong at the same time. It also seems like where they're going for some inspiration from like Han Dynasty, some inspiration from like Three Kingdoms period, some inspiration from like Tang and Song Dynasty. It looks like hero-wise, they're not quite veering into the territory of including like Zhuge Liang in the game or including Guan Yu or Lu Bu in the game. It seems to be mostly like a Taoist-inspired pantheon, which is exactly the direction that they should go in. The two titans are a little bit confusing, having the Bull Demon King as well as Xingtian represented are a little bit weird. I'm guessing that the Bull Demon King is a campaign asset because we also saw it as a smaller myth unit. So maybe it's like a bad guy that kind of evolves into a titan later on in the campaign story, which is a little bit of a shame because he's such a cool character and that model was extremely detailed. I would love to see that in the proper game. If every single major god had their own unique titan, how cool would that be? I know there's technically already a mod out for that, so like I think that's a really cool direction to go in for them. It would certainly get people more hyped to buy future DLC major gods. Speaking of major gods, we did see two statues of major gods for the civilization. One of them looked almost certainly to be Nuwa, and the other one I couldn't quite tell who it was. I'm guessing it's Fuxi, Nuwa's husband. The third one, Shen Nong, usually has horns on his head, so I don't think we saw that character. Notably, there were some things that we didn't see in this version of China. We didn't see any Jiangshi, which are Qing Dynasty era hopping zombies that we saw in the extended edition version of China. We also didn't see any terracotta soldiers, which were also kind of like an automaton style unit that was also in the previous version of the Civ. I think both of these units are less mythologically inspired, more rely on Chinese stereotypes. I did include them in my version of the Chinese design just because they were so evocative of what the West thinks about China, but if they choose to cut them, I think it's totally valid. Notably, we also didn't see a nine-tailed fox. This is a creature that's very, very famous in Chinese mythology, and the fact that they're not including it here suggests to me that they could be saving that kind of character aesthetic for a kitsune type of character for a Japanese civilization down the line. There is one other civilization that's going to be revealed later on, and maybe we're going to get something like Japan. Who knows? On the economy side, we did see at least two different styles of units. We saw the villager style unit and we saw the sage style unit. But the sage style unit seems like there's two different characters. There's like an old man sage and like a female sage that can fly. It didn't seem like they went with any Shaolin Buddhist monk type of characters, and it seems like in general they're kind of veering away from any kind of Buddhist inspired lore. Or hell, I mean, maybe the Immortal Pillars is actually a reference to the fingers of the Buddha. Shout out to anyone who gets that reference. But if they don't include any kind of Buddhist mythology, it makes sense. I mean, Buddhism is still very much a modern religion. They probably want to stay away from that. Recapping the units that we saw the G infantry, we saw the Druganus, we saw some archers, we saw some horse archers that could also double as melee cavalry, so they're kind of like a light cavalry style unit. We saw the cataphracts and we saw the shield infantry. Oh yeah, we also saw this like javelin infantry. Oh yeah, so that's actually 7 human units. That's actually not too many. I was kind of freaking out earlier, but there's actually not that many human units here. There are 3 siege weapons though: the ox cart, the hook, and the ballista. So what does this confirm? This confirms that there's no Guandao unit. Actually, wait, whoa. There's actually a Guandao unit right here. Whoa, what is that? What is that? So there is a Guandao unit as well? Is this a campaign hero? This might just be a campaign hero because we don't see any other versions of this unit. We also don't see any gunpowder units, so it seems like they are staying away from any kind of gunpowder, any kind of fire lance or rocket cart type of unit. Although I would love to see that included as a DLC major god down the line, just because it adds so much interesting flavor to the game. One thing we didn't see is god powers though. I know we saw that Shenlong style dragon, which is very exciting. We didn't see the Azure dragon. We saw all the other kind of cardinal direction animals, but we didn't see the Azure dragon. I'm guessing they're saving that because it's probably going to look pretty cool. I'm hoping that they're saving the best for last along with Wukong. I would love to see the palm of the Buddha being represented in the game, like a giant hand going down just crushing people. That would be awesome. Pagoda that can kind of like trap enemy units the same way that Implode does. That would be really cool. And some reference to the somersault cloud or like the flying nimbus. We saw a lot of like godly style characters here. They have the motif with the cloths that kind of wrap around their shoulders, which is super awesome, but we need to get some of those like clouds that they're flying on because that is just so evocative of Chinese mythology. Overall, I'm excited as hell, but I want to hear what you guys think. Was there anything I missed? Anything that you are particularly excited for? Let me know in the comments below. I can't wait to hear what all you guys have to say about this. All right, that's all from me. Stay frosty, stay chilly.